Nice try.
I know. Well, I got it in right before the record.
Just
So
seconds before.
yes. So all right. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome Beth.
Ah,
Thank
yes.
you.
Glad you could make it. So we'll call the meeting to order, and the minutes of last meeting. Are there any edits, adjustments, additions, deletions?
Yeah, I think there ought to be a footnote that I was absent because I wasn't sent the Zoom link. I tried my best for McDonald's to get through, but without a link, I couldn't do it.
Fair enough. We will record that as part of this meeting.
I think the chairman did such an excellent job. He should reconsider. Phyllis, you should have Mike helping you.
Yeah.
Was a good job. Hey,
Don't
hey,
go there.
Yeah, the only thing is we don't know who adjourned the meeting.
Probably everybody.
I think we
Yes.
all did.
Yes. Yeah, that would be
Unanimous adjournment.
yes. Unanimous motion. All right. So duly noted. And thank you, Paul, for being here. Okay. So with that adjustment, or we can add it to this meeting, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
hey, Mike.
Yep.
One thing on the attachment that Phyllis sent out, the attachments.
Yep.
Oh, the
One
mind
of
control
them-
thing.
Yeah, there was 3 attachments on it,
Okay.
and just so I think the one about Lake Advisory Committee, in that it still states that the meeting starts at 7:30. We might want to change that.
Well, that's on the annual report.
Oh, so that stays?
So that's
No.
last year.
That was
Oh, that was
last year.
last year's. I got you. Okay. I didn't know if that needed to be changed.
It does.
Okay.
For 2020, yes.
Gotcha.
Okay. So with that said, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving along. So again, Beth, welcome. Glad you could be part of this. And did you have anything that you wanted to share with us as we get started here?
I met today with Dave out at the dam and went over the gate and how you operate it and monitor that. So he'll work with me on the 15th and we'll open that together.
Okay. Oh, great.
I did
Great.
tell Beth that if that was done incorrectly, she wouldn't survive her 6-month test.
Yeah.
So it was critical
bless
that
you.
she meet with Dave.
Oh, so true.
I mean,
No
Dan,
pressure. No pressure.
Right, I
No
know.
pressure.
screw it up and you're done.
I'll lose that
Poor
night.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't pull the plug, as they say. Okay, great. Well, it's there's a lot of people. You have a lot of support here. So certainly, if you have any questions, obviously there's Dave and Dan who can also help with that. And there's Dan. So please let me. So Bob Powell is saying he's trying to get into the meeting. I just.
I need to admit him. Hold on. Okay, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
wasn't monitoring my participant.
Okay.
in.
All right.
Dave Vanderbilt too.
Oh, is he
I
trying to
think
get in?
He's coming in.
Here he comes.
I let them both in.
Okay. Coming in hot. Excellent. So any communications?
Michael, this is not written, but I was told that there are some barrels over the spillway that have been there, like 5-gallon barrels stuck on the spillway. Has anybody noticed those?
Mm-mm.
This is David. I'm not sure if you can hear me. There's
Yep,
a couple,
gotcha.
that's all.
I'm sorry,
don't-
Dave, what was that?
There's just a couple of buckets. I was there today. I didn't see any barrels. I just saw a bucket.
Well, I think that they meant buckets or barrels, whatever they are.
They've been there for a little while.
Yeah, are they gonna be removed or what's gonna be happening to those?
Public
I
Works,
spoke-
I was over there. What's her name?
Beth?
Yep, I spoke
Beth,
with,
right.
I spoke with
I was over
Brian
there with her
Paul
today and
about it.
she knows about the barrels or the buckets and said they sometimes clean up over there.
Beth is with us, Dave.
Yeah, we
Okay.
plan on going out there next week and cleaning that out.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And
Excellent.
while we have Beth, we should probably talk about how to get trees out of the lake.
Yay.
Because that will become Beth's responsibility now. And we know we have 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are 2.
Where are the two? One by the dam that
Right.
has the buoys. Oh, is there another one on Woodland?
Yeah, Wells Point.
Wells is, yeah.
Yes.
Over by the church, right?
Yeah,
So when the
Over
lake,
there.
you're right, Jim.
One by,
There's one to the left of the Hungerford house over towards the Anderson's house. Well, it's on the camp property, but it's in that little lily pad cove
Right.
area. That thing's a mess.
so there's
Yeah.
3 of them,
it
really.
is a mess, yeah.
While they're at it, they should also bring in the ropes for the Erdoney Beach.
Oh, that's right.
Those are still up, the marker buoys and the ropes that indicate the swim area in Erdoney Road.
Oh, before we start the drawdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you
Okay.
can do it after drawdown if you want, then you don't have to get wet, but
that's true.
usually they're taken in before now.
Okay.
Okay, as far as getting trees out, are you looking for feedback from us on that or?
No, I think we just have to figure out a way to do it. That's a big tree in front of the dam, so we don't have a game plan yet.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
might be a good idea for someone to go around in a boat and see what they can see. I think the only person that has a boat left is Dave Vanderbilt.
I got
Mine's
my
still
boat out
in.
there too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, somebody should go around and maybe indicate where those trees might be and send it to the
Yeah,
town.
they have them marked off and
Right,
I would have to say until they drain the lake, that's when you'll know what can be done.
yeah.
yeah, I would agree. It'd be much
You know,
easier to assess it.
The last time the town took one of my trees away, they did it by boat and they dragged it over to the beach and used a payloader to take it out.
But was it as big as the tree that's in front of the dam right now?
Mine was pretty big.
Was
But
it?
the problem with the one in the dam is it's been there for a couple of months and it's probably waterlogged.
Yeah.
I think the one at the dam at the Kings, they took an awful lot of that away already, as much as I think they could get,
They could get.
like cutting and pulling what they could with a boat. Cause I watched them do that for a couple weeks. So maybe they've gotten everything they could.
The one at the wells, I'm not sure you can access that by land.
Yeah,
I
it's too
think
many
you-
trees.
Yeah,
Oh, you'd have to get their permission to do that.
right.
There's one that's broken off at the camp too, that's broken off halfway up the trunk.
Now,
Is there
that-
someone that can volunteer a boat to tour Beth
Sure.
and possibly Andy Andrews to see these trees? Because this is the first Beth is learning that this is her responsibility to get them out of there.
Sure.
I still have a large deck boat in the lake if you want to make it.
Now, so that was you, Dave?
Yeah, that's Dave. Yep.
So Dave Vanderbilt, Beth, I can give you his contact information and we could
Okay.
set up a look with his, what, you would use your pontoon boat, Dave?
Yeah, I got the deck boat and, I get home from work around, 3:30, between 3 and 3:30 every day.
Okay.
So it's
Good.
best for me after work.
Does the town personnel take those trees down, or do you get contractors?
Well, that's the problem. We don't, they're so big and they're underwater that we haven't figured out a way to cut them up and get them out of there. We were looking for a way to put a flotation system under the tree and lift it up, but we haven't figured a way to do it yet.
Okay.
You're gonna need some help. We just recently had trees removed on Erdoney, and they brought in a crew. Oh, Beth, I forget the name of it, but the tree warden, who's excellent, Brian, brought in a crew, which is a commercial crew, as far as I know. 2 of the 3 trees are in the water. One is literally right on the shore next to the Hungerford House on Camp Astawama. That one is accessible without even having to get into the water. As a matter of fact, it's so shallow you can't get there by boat. But Dave, you
But-
know where it is in Lily Pad? Did you see that one?
Yeah, I know where it is.
I was
Dave, I'd
wondering
be-
whether it was in the way of treating the Phragmites.
No, it wasn't. The Phragmites was treated today and it was not at all. I was with the guy.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
We're in very good shape.
Hey, Dave, I'd be happy to go with you if you want.
Yeah, let me know when, yeah, no problem. You got enough water to get in there with the boat, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah, especially a pontoon.
yeah.
Okay. And okay, so you may contract it out, or you may use the town personnel, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
My
Okay.
concern is with our equipment, we would do more damage to the shoreline depending on the size of these trees, because we have to drag more so than lift.
Mm,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, if you want, I have access to some interesting compact cranes. So if you get into a spot where you think you might want to use a compact crane, I can maybe help with that.
Okay.
I think that's why, in my instance, when they took the tree, they dragged it across the lake to the beach, because then they had better access using a payloader at the ramp and things like that. The problem you're going to have right now is the lake water's down. So, and
Right.
with the the 15th looming on us, the lake water will be even less in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I mean, yeah. I mean, it may be down to, cutting them up into manageable pieces and craning them out. But
Tough to cut them when they're underwater.
I think the wells and the one at the camp, when the water goes down, will be easily exposed. As a matter of fact, the one at the camp is already exposed. It's not much in the water. It's a bunch of branches. But
Yeah.
I think the one at the dam is going to be a booger.
is that a technical
I
term,
think the
Mary?
one at the
excuse
wells is going to be tough. The one at the wells is going to be tough for access from land.
Yeah, they're going to have to
Yeah.
go in with
I mean,
some.
that one's been there. That one's been there for 2 years. That one's been there for 2 years. So,
Yeah.
If,
No,
then
that
we'll-
just fell, Bob. This is new.
oh, there was one there a couple of weeks ago that's been there for 2 years.
That's been
Yeah.
there for a long time, but now
Yeah.
there's a different, bigger one.
yeah,
The one from
Okay.
2 years ago should be cleared out too.
Because Helen Wells called me about it. Helen
think it's a
called me
perch.
about it and said it's distracting her view or something. And I said, I recognize that. We'll have to wait. So,
the, I think they can be gotten by shore once the water's down, because you can take them in 6-foot lengths. And if you
Correct.
got one of the town vehicles down there with a winch on it, you just winch it ashore.
correct.
And most of it will be high and dry with the water down. And the part that's still in the water can be dragged up on the lake bottom and cut up.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Does that mean we're gonna allow mechanized, or machines on the lake bed?
Well, you're gonna have to allow a chainsaw, but
Yeah, for
you don't
sure.
need, you don't need to have, the town vehicle get down there, just a cable.
Just a cable, yeah,
That's
just
right.
cable.
Yep, that's my point.
And those walls, at least at the camp and on Wells, are not built stone walls. It's just natural shoreline. So
Right.
if you do a little, dragging, Beth, you're not going to be in harm's way.
By the way, I think the Wells have one more raft than they're entitled to at the present time.
Maybe we
It's
can
an
cut that up.
ongoing, it's been an ongoing problem with the wells. They know that between the two properties, they're allowed 4 offshore items. And because different people come in at different times of the year, they add 2 or 3 boats. I used to, as a Marine Patrol officer, I used to go around and warn them every single week because new people were coming in on a weekly basis that didn't know the rules. There's multiple owners of those 2 properties and they don't seem to want to know what the rules are or whatever. They just put their boats out there. It's an ongoing problem.
Okay. So moving along, the dam, what do we have for report on the dam?
Oh, the dam, sorry. I was out there today. The water is minus 11 to 12. It was a little hard to see because of the wave action, but it's probably the lowest I've ever seen it go after having a full lake early in the season. The weep holes are both about 10%, and I think the water temperature is still pretty good. It's like 67, and that's about it.
It was, when I was swimming this morning, it was a hair over 65
Yep,
at the lake.
that's not too bad for this time of year.
All right. Anything on water quality? Any reports on the blooms or anything like that?
No, I talked to Dr. Cortman today and he said, we're in really good shape. He said the lake water quality is still fantastic. There have been some blooms this year. And we can get into that later. But he's still confident that we're in good shape and we probably need to get some equipment so that we can identify blooms earlier than the long process of sending samples to him and have them analyzed in Ohio and back if it gets to be an issue of warning people to be safe for swimming. So there's the quick test for $1,000 and the very in-depth test for $9,000 worth of equipment. And we can talk about that when you'd like.
Well, we've started it, so let's let it ride.
All right. So what he said was that the challenge we have is the length of time it takes him to do in-depth testing. He initially does a microscopic analysis and then he preps it and sends it to a professional in Ohio. They do an evaluated detailed spreadsheet. They load the plots of everything back to him. He forms a cyanobacteria analysis of what's on the surface, what's below, and then he determines, where we are. But by that time, weeks have gone by, and if you have a dangerous outbreak, you can't warn the public in time. And he said, we're nowhere near a Potipog or any of these other lakes that, are a disaster, but you can't warn anybody unless you have a pocket instrument that would cost $1,000 that would be a quick, kind of like a rapid test for coronavirus, COVID virus, or the $9,000 more expensive equipment that would include oxygen analysis, temperature, pH, algae, and a whole bunch of other things. So
now, is that also a mobile rig, or is that something like we have to bring the
I-
water to a you know?
No, I think we would own the equipment. We would bring the water to our own equipment and we'd be in charge of testing and analyzing. But he
Right, but
said
it-
that equipment costs $9,000.
But that's not mobile equipment then. That's like a setup. We'd have to set it up in a room somewhere. And okay, all right.
Yeah,
so
let's
well,
say the
that's-
Murphy House, we put all our analytical equipment in the Murphy House and we bring the water sample there and do the
And
analysis.
then you have to have somebody that's certified that's doing the testing.
Yes, so this
Correct.
is
It's
not an
not you, Mark.
easy,
It's not you. It's not me doing the testing. It's somebody that's been trained and certified to do the testing.
but it
But-
could be employees that are certified and trained.
Right, right.
Correct. And,
The,
and Bob, just as a reminder, Henry and I were on that subcommittee and we have postponed it because of COVID to move forward with being more analytical and doing these things by ourselves. We already had one that was over the threshold of concern this year where we probably should have been alerting people ASAP.
But that spike was like one day, it exploded, if you looked at that analysis.
Mhm.
And unless we had our own equipment, there's no way, we would have been telling people 2 weeks later, oh, by the way, you shouldn't have been swimming 2 weeks ago.
Right, right.
we,
so does the pocket unit, does that tell us immediately what we need to know as far as the bloom and all that?
I think the pocket unit is like a rapid test. It tells you, hey, you shouldn't swim here.
the
don't
pocket
think-
unit probably you just put in the water and you read a sample, it sounds like.
Right,
We-
it
we-
tells you immediately, hey, this is bad stuff. It's not good to swim in.
What we need to find out is how accurate it is. How many times does it give a false positive?
Right,
And we do the town also has, because Bob delivered it to me, a dissolved oxygen, temperature, and potentially pH probe. I'll take a look at it tomorrow. So we may not need the $9,000 version. We may already have the ability to test for the other variables.
and that testing goes through Bob normally, but our biggest issue is how do we warn the public that there are areas that you shouldn't swim?
Well,
Right,
that-
so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think the pocket meter sounds like it's got the right concept. You can drive around on the boat, put the thing overboard, take a sample
Right.
and read it. And if it's credible, and the person who's doing it is certified, we should be able to warn. But I think part of that knowledge base too is do you have to tell everybody around the whole lake if it seems to be confined in one cove and you can't test it somewhere else? Or, I think we need to figure out what the state requires.
But we can do that because we can do it through CLA, through Facebook, through the town website.
Right.
But I think the pocket tester, that needs to be done immediately. That's a given
That's a no
that you
brainer.
have to do that. I think the analysis of, do we want to take over from Bob what he was doing for the very elaborate testing? That's a longer discussion that Henry and his committee should evaluate.
So,
Yeah, and
so moving-
I'm wondering if there's a liability involved with analyzing the tests?
Well,
I
we're gonna do the part that with the more detailed tests, Mary and I are working on, we're gonna be working with Bob Cortman, so it'll all be fully coordinated. But I agree that the pocket test probably needs to be done by a town employee, and it has to be the town that's blowing the whistle, to close part of the lake and monitor it because of the responsibility that's involved.
Right?
Yeah,
And then
from a consistency standpoint, I would suggest that one person be the person that does all the testing, not multiple people. This is what we did years ago when we did the Secchi disc and the oxygen. We had one person doing it so that at least it was a consistent reading every single time. If you have multiple people doing it, there's a possibility that the results will be skewed.
Right, because they might not go deep enough in the water. I'm sure there's certain depth you have to take the sample from and
Yeah.
handle the sample a certain way. I would agree with Bob.
Yeah, well, and yes, and the nice thing about this pocket one, it sounds like that you can test. As if I'm hearing this, you can test different areas and then go back the next day and be able to isolate an area that may be problematic, and it doesn't necessarily affect the whole lake. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that we can just,
I don't
it's-
know, because when you talk to Bob, it's like I'm a layman talking to a scientist. So
Yeah.
I don't capture everything he's telling me.
Yeah.
But it all sounds great.
So,
I-
so moving forward, Mike, could I suggest, and Mark, with your permission, obviously, as the liaison to Cortman, we gather the research and we weigh the upsides and the downsides of each option, the $1,000 option and the $9,000 option. We bring it back and present it to the committee. And then I think
Good.
we'll have more, solid data to be able to speak to say, this is what it'll do. And yes, this is how we should then be communicating, which probably is then a conversation with Deep or the
Having,
health or Eastern Highlands, whoever it is.
having Bob, or not Bob, having Cortman weigh in is going to be important to coordinate that with the informal stuff we're doing too, because the whole idea is to maximize what we get from him. And if we're relieving his burden on some other things, we may want to have him continue to track the cyanobacteria the way we are, if it's important to monitor for knowledge base with respect to future treatment. The pocket meter is just going to tell us whether to close the lake or not. It's not going to tell us how to solve the problem.
Or to communicate, not close, communicate that you shouldn't swim.
Communicate,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Well, but I
I
mean,
hate the
I
word
think
close.
well, it would effectively close the beach
Right.
if it were
But
in
it
that
will
area.
tell us that there isn't a, it'll tell us to have it check that area.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it'll tell us.
The other big issue with the $9,000 piece of equipment is that based on his last invoice we got, you can see the expense of him doing the testing, sample
Yes.
processing, surveying, organizing the data, download. You're looking at anywhere from $500 to $700 per testing. So if we can take some of that expense out, the 9,000 might be a great investment if we can get this figured out, so that then we send our test results to Bob for his evaluation instead of waiting for it to go to Ohio and back and
Correct.
everything it does right now.
Here.
Well, right, but they're typically, I mean, it sounds like the pocket tester will tell us quickly the most urgent information,
Yes.
and then the other stuff may or may not be as urgent. And I think we also, it sounds great. It'd be easy to say, okay, well, it's $500 a test and it's 9,000 for the equipment. So, our ROI is in,
Yeah.
whatever that is, 18
tests and we're break
18
even.
tests. Well, but I think that's not necessarily the case. And we need to look at that because obviously, there's costs for the town personnel. There's cost for training. There's cost for monitor. So
Yeah. What if we do the test and it doesn't work and we don't understand what we're doing and the results are
Exactly.
wrong?
Oh.
And
Exactly. And
Right.
and so I just I'm with you. I think the pocket tester, and I'll wait for the subcommittee to look at it, but I think the pocket tester sounds like a no-brainer because that
Right,
gives
step
us
one.
it gives us the information, but the other stuff may be maybe there may be other layers that we need to factor in before we outlay that cash, thinking that the ROI is going to be in a year or two, and it's really going to be in 10.
10.
so who's figuring that out, Mike? Is that Henry and Mary? Who's on
I
that
thought-
committee?
I thought that was Henry and Mary on that. Is that
Henry,
Yes. Well, we'll talk to Bob Cortman and figure out what makes sense for us to do locally. And
Good.
it may be that we want to buy both pieces of equipment because the testing may be able to be done in the night or the evenings or something like that, not right away, whereas the other can give us an instant read in the morning before swim lessons if we need to, you know?
Right.
Okay.
So,
But we'll
so
figure it out.
Henry,
We
We
have
I'll
a
take,
few
could probably have split with the town of Coventry and split the cost, and Cortman could use it for both.
I don't want to have a piece of equipment dipped into both lakes.
no, thank you. It's called hydrilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hydrilla is $1 million problem.
Worry about the Eagle bringing it over here, but not a test.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Henry, I'll take it offline and you and I can connect with Bob. We can set up a Zoom or something quick.
Good idea.
First, I'll reach out to him and say, give us exactly what you're recommending so we can research it and have our questions ready.
Right.
So he doesn't
Mark.
scientifics to death.
I just had a quick question on the extensive testing. So right now, our option is Cortman and a 2-week delay with the Ohio
Right.
involvement, or a $9,000 investment is option B. Is there an option C that doesn't
And that-
involve Cortman?
That might be a good question for Henry and Mary, because what I got into the whole invoice, the invoice we just received, which you talked about the last meeting, which I talked to Bob in detail about from the September 1st invoice, $5,500.
Mhm.
And he said a lot of the costs of pulling together the thumb drive for all of our data that we've done over 25 years, a lot of that was due to his going back into old files. It was his time. It was the time to go into 25 years of files and data files and pull it all together and to eliminate information that was not useful at all, information that was useful. And I said, okay, Bob, let's just say that was round one. It was horrible. It took you a ton of time. You had to bill us your hourly rate to pull all that together. I said, going forward, how do we do this so it's not painful each invoice? And he said, we make it part of our process that when I give you your final reporting at the end of the year, I just include all the data for that year with that reporting. So he said, I'll make that part of my normal process of what I give to you. And then it won't be researching all my obscure data files for 25 years.
Well, I've looked at this thumb drive, and the organization of this 20 years of history is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, there is
It's
no
almost useless?
consistency. It's not useless. I made the mistake of volunteering to pull all this together. It's going to be a huge effort.
Project.
It's going to have to start with a meeting with Cortman to understand what data items each year we should be recording. And they should be organized in a consistent fashion from year to year to year. He has blocks of years where you can see 84 to 91. Then there's a different format from 89 to, 2001. Then there's some years where I don't find the data. So I think, when the time is right, we should have a couple of us sit down with Cortman, have him tell us, here are the 10 data items that are critical to record and carry from year to year so we can see the trends, which I think is the most important message on this stuff. And once we have done that, then we can tell him at the end of every year, for however long he's around, we need this in this format so we can add it to our spreadsheet or whatever format we have for all this.
Right,
data.
because we don't want a giant flash drive like we got with gobs of information that
It's a
we have
mess.
no
It's a
useful.
mess. Yeah.
Well, it ought to be when Carl gets the spreadsheet organized, Cortman ought to add the data to it immediately when
Right.
he gets it.
Yeah.
Right.
Real time, so we didn't have to wait to the end of the year. if he's coming out and making a set of readings of those 10 variables, they ought to be plugged right into the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So
I think when we get that data, you know, and I don't mean to knock Cortman, we may be getting the deal of the century with his pricing. I don't know. But I think when we get the data organized and we have a history, I think we're going to be in a better position to, you know, do the right thing for the town and put this work out to bid and see what other organizations can do for us.
Mhm.
I think that's a good
that-
point, Carl. I mean, Bob Cortman's not going to be around forever.
Right,
So
right.
one
No, I
way,
think-
maybe other consultants that could pick up.
Exactly,
pick up the slack.
exactly.
He's going
I
to
think-
retire. you
Right,
know,
I think,
you know,
I agree,
let's be
Bob.
prepared
I
for
think
that.
that's, yep. I think we need to be kind of committed to Cortman until we resolve the siphon evaluation and installation, if that's the way we go, because he's the guy for that. But I think, you know, between now and the completion of the siphon project, we should be in a position to look at some options.
And there are at least, from going to the Connecticut Federation of Lakes, 3 options right at the top of my head where I have met the consultants and know that they are certified liminologists and or companies that have been around forever that are doing this. One was on our lake today, Solitude, as an example. So I think that there are others out there just to make comparisons and to figure out what's best for the town.
Right.
Right.
And Carl, I think I agree. You know, organizing the data, understanding the data points can then help us better write a scope to
Yeah.
put out, you know, an organized scope with certain deliverables and certain timing that someone could actually put together an apples to apples bid
Yeah.
package.
You know, Mary, I think I would like to talk to one of those other people that you think are easy to deal with, and maybe somebody we consider down the road, and ask them what kind of data items we should be keeping from
Absolutely.
year to year.
Yeah, there's George Knockblaine, who is a liminologist certified, who is well-known around Connecticut. I think his is Northeastern something. But I have at least 3 in mind that I can share. And Carl, maybe you should be part of the subcommittee with Henry. But I also have a training manual and packet that was given to me that outlines, here's what you should be looking for, that if I can condense it from 50 pages to here are the top 10 things that are being said, at least this is the type of thing coming out and that's already being published, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we could push back against that bill, Mark, because it seems to me a scientist ought to be more organized with their data. And particularly since we have part of what we're investing in him is his knowledge base through the years, it ought to be just a clear map. It should have been done from the get-go. And to now charge us because he didn't do it the right way is a little bit much. But I mean, you can keep that as a negotiating tool, but I think professionally he's let us down on that, and he shouldn't be charging us full freight.
Here, here.
Well, I hear you, Henry. There's probably, and I'm, you know, again, I'm just trying to look at this objectively, but, you know, there's probably just a technology shift, you know, over the last 25 years that probably made this a hard thing to, you know, put together on a single thumb drive. And certainly hard to organize it. I just know that, you know, scanning, you know, everybody talks about going paperless, but boy, it's a lot more complicated than, you know, than it seems. So, but I'm not disagreeing with you.
I give you credit for, I recognize that, but every time he adopted a new technology, he should have converted and brought it forward as opposed to just have it and kept printed out and put it in a paper file.
But Henry, that wasn't a deliverable we asked for ever until just now. So if he wasn't set up for that, is that a realistic expectation?
I'd have to chime in on that and say too, that if he had a task to provide for us, and as long as he did, he may look at that thumb drive and it makes perfect sense to him. to us, maybe not so much, and maybe not a way to organize it to then make it a cohesive thing over 25 years.
Right.
He did his job, so it's hard to fault him. for
I
that.
think we could press Dr. Cortman to give us a lot more help in analyzing what he gave us and help us put together what we need to have going forward without any more billables in order to pay the invoice he already gave us. So maybe that might be the negotiating trend. Help us get forward to a point where all this data is useful.
The reason we've had him is for his 25 years of experience. And if he had to spend all this time going to pull it out of boxes and files stored in his attic or his basement, it really wasn't available to him when he is advising us.
But he did execute what we hired him to do over the last 25 years.
One of the things you're paying him for is his experience and his
Yes.
expertise, which isn't necessarily in the files that he's done over the last 25 years. It's based on
Right.
his experiences over that period of time and based on his knowledge. So that's what you're paying him for. You're not paying him for converting files 25 years ago into the latest computer files. That's not what it's all
His
about.
history on the lake, on this lake, and the work that he's done on it.
Yeah, but that history,
Probably a lot of that
you
isn't
need
in, probably a lot of that isn't even in the files.
that history needs to be refreshed by having him be able to look back at things. And that's what I've anticipated he'd have the ability to do. And it doesn't seem that he has to, unless we send him on a task like this. He couldn't tell us, well, back in 1978, we had a cyanobacteria outbreak. We probably did. I think the first time that we all got organized on this, the whole lake was that green.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's happened that bad back then?
that the whole, whatever that summer was, the whole lake was that way.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
And it raised,
Only 3 days. 3
Yeah.
days.
Mhm.
That was
Okay.
it. It only happened one
Oh.
summer.
yeah, it's only been once so far.
Yeah, only It lasted for about 3 days and then everything was fine, but it did happen once.
Okay.
So, and I mean, there's probably a way, I think, also to turn it into something positive where we're appealing to his sense of legacy, that this data will now become part of the history of the town of Columbia, and, that we want to
It's a
make it
great way to-
accessible.
It's a great way to put it, Mike.
Yeah.
Very politically correct.
Don't call me a politician now. I'm out.
Nicely done, nicely done.
That was well. That
Right.
was well said.
Right.
The Cortman data set.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right. Anything else on that for right now?
No, sir.
We'll
Okay.
tackle it.
All right. Thank you. Access, safety and regulations. Has everybody seen the September Marine Patrol report?
Yep.
Any
Someplace.
questions, comments?
Lot of activity.
I'm concerned that we have some overpowered personal watercraft on the lake. We talked about this once before. Did the Lake Patrol get around to do?
Well, the one craft that Bob brought up and sent me information on, we did follow up with the person, and they did present Marine Patrol with a revised registration with the correct horsepower.
Mm.
Did it match the engine?
Was it?
Mark, the problem with that is that when you get your registration for renewal, if there are any corrections that need to be made, you make those corrections and send it back to DMV. I'm not sure DMV follows up on verifying that with the BIN, boat identification number. So
So
maybe an inspection is what's called for. I mean, as Jim Santos said, the only thing that's legal on this lake is a 4-cylinder engine. If it has a 6-cylinder, you know it's not legal. That boat that I talked to you about, we know was initially made with a 6-cylinder engine. Now, did this guy have the engine replaced? I doubt it. So there could be a follow-up on that, and that could happen next year.
All right, well, we'll handle that offline.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
There is a possibility it could have been replaced, given the benefit of the doubt.
But I think that there needs
The
to be.
the boat's hardly worth replacing the engine in.
Oh, so it's not like ours, because we did put in the regulation engine. Yeah.
Next year, we, at the very beginning, should have a concerted plan for Marine Patrol to check out the personal watercraft. If they're not all launched at the beach. And we also need to have time spent monitoring rafts and moorings and so forth, because they're more than the wells that have overstepped. That person down in the corner that gave us, that was looking at 87, that was looking for having, being able to put 2 watercraft on a lift side by side, has a mooring with a sunfish on it, has a raft, and has his 2 watercraft in the dock. And they've got more than they're entitled to. And there's a couple of rafts that are associated with some of those right-of-ways along that area, and I don't think they all have 50 feet. So they're, it's one thing to just be, monitoring boating safety, but we do have to, I think, monitor some of these other things, and it's best done at the beginning of the year.
Well, what I would recommend is that LMAC report concerns to Marine Patrol, to Mark Bolza, and we'll investigate. Because I don't think it's reasonable to expect that all the Marine Patrol will be experts at all of our zoning regulations for docks and rafts and boats. But if you guys say, hey, this property is out of conformance, can you go take pictures and verify it and get it back to zoning enforcement? We could handle it that way too.
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. Anything else as far as some of the numbers, as far as, stickers and all that, on the report? No? Okay. Watershed management plan, any updates there? All right. Storm, any activity on stormwater culverts? Nothing. All right. Fishing, any reports on anything?
On the stormwater culverts,
That is me.
when do the ones on Sleepy Hollow Road get cleaned out? Because there's a lot of dirt and stuff that's washed into them. The drainage coming down Collins Drive is not very good, and it sweeps all the leaves and dirt off the bank. It's an erosion issue.
All right, so
To build on that, I've had a request from a CLA members. Is there a way to publish when we clean these and how often we clean these? Because Henry, this is on Webster Lane, but it's the same thing. People who walk every night are looking at these things, seeing that they're starting to fill up, and they seem to never be cleaned. And I said, I'm sure they are. I just don't know the schedule. So is there a way, Mark?
Same issue. Same problem.
Yeah.
It's all on these.
all
Well,
right,
it's
so
the same on any side of the road, Lake Road or Donny Road, Sleepy
Right.
Hollow. When do they clean them?
I was told by Andy Andrews that all catch basins are cleaned annually. And then the catch basins around the lake are cleaned again in December.
Well, there are some that service areas where the roads are poorly drained or, and so they catch more because of the fact that the leaves are right in the gutter and get swept in, or the dirt washes off the steep embankment and goes right in.
Can LMAC compile this historic information to Beth so she has a head start as to where the concerned drainage areas are? Because back when I ran East Haddam, Beth and I had a game plan of before every major storm, we knew exactly what drains we had to go inspect and clear because that's where we had our flooding. So it was the same 15 drains every year forever. So if we could
So
get
it-
a game plan.
Yeah, is your concern the sediment that's in the catch basin or the accumulation on the top grate?
That blocks it.
Both.
Okay.
Well, yes. First in and second on top. Rarely do I see it on top on Erdoney Road. However, I've had people on Lake Road, and that's a steep, Utley Hill is a very steep hill, and on Sleepy Hollow say, it clearly is at a level where it's going to start just sweeping right into the lake. So it needs.
And that, Mary, that's the biggest concern. I'm not sure if Beth knows this, but those catch basins around the lake empty directly into the lake. That is the concern. Anything that's being dumped into those catch basins goes directly to the lake.
Okay.
Okay.
If we had a 2-inch rain, all of those would now deposit a lot of leaves right into the lake.
So
Okay.
to that, another comment came in from a different CLA member who said to me, for this year, he has more sand in his cove than he's seen in 2 or 3 years. And this is the cove that is right next to the beach. And my sense is, I know we've redone our beach and we've minimized erosion. Can that be, there's a culvert right next to the beach where that may be dumping in? And I think it's something we have to investigate and take a look at. But that culvert I know always fills up. And he's wondering if he can remove the sand from his cove. Said, I'll take that offline. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
A factor in that happening is probably our low water level. Because I've noticed a lot of movement of the bottom along my wall. It's basically being eroded in places because the wave action is pulling it away and depositing it in other places.
Yeah, it's strange that we'd have sand coming into the lake because it hasn't rained all summer long, so it's gotta
Yeah.
be being moved around.
Okay. So it sounds like Mark and Beth, you guys will put together a game plan on this? Or you already have one?
Yeah.
We can do further inspections and monitor them more closely and see if they have to be cleaned on a more regular basis.
Right.
If we're seeing sediment in the bottoms
And
above the outlets.
if you guys can give us where all the hot spots are that we really need to focus on, that would expedite our learning curve. Because this is all new to Beth, and I would love that information too. Where are the spots you're most concerned about?
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind too is on, the catch basins on 87 that dump in, we don't have control
yeah.
of those.
I'll be right back.
Who does that, Jim?
That's
Is that
the
a state?
Yeah.
That's the state.
We can't clean the catch basins on 87, they do it?
I don't believe we can unless, I know they have some kind of schedule. They don't always keep to it.
Oh,
But,
lovely.
every couple of years you do see them out there doing it, but it's usually, I've rarely seen them every year doing it.
I bet
Even
Dave
though
will
it's
do it.
supposed to be done. What's that?
I bet Dave would do it.
Yeah. But,
Mark or Beth, do you have any feedback on how the state roads get done relative to the town roads?
I think the state's frequency is lower because they don't use any sand. They are straight salt, so I don't
Yeah.
believe that they clean annually unless it's required for an MS4 town.
Yeah, I think, isn't the state using some water-based salt or some kind of
They use the
sodium
straight
Brine.
salt.
liquid sodium chloride?
Well, they use straight salt, so they don't put sand down, so
Right, but
That
I think
really-
they also do it in a liquid form, don't they?
they use both liquid and rock salt.
Which would concern me because that's going to dump directly into the lake.
I was gonna say, is that good for the lake?
Especially on
Probably
87,
not.
yeah.
Probably
Yikes.
not. It's not good for your car, that's for sure.
Ah, lovely.
Beth, it's probably too soon to ask you this, but what does Columbia have for an inventory of our catch basins? Do we have a GIS or anything like that that shows where they are and how they're connected and where they empty?
I've just started to dig into some of the files. It looks like the catch basins are located on GIS. I don't know if the final outfalls are located or not.
Okay,
Well,
'cause
you
we
can assume that anything in the Lake District empties into the lake. It's all
Right,
downhill,
but-
it's all downhill from there.
Right, but
Right, I
can-
just don't have the connections of which catch basins point discharge to a culvert in the lake yet. I haven't
So, for
found that
instance,
mapping.
I mean, I can walk up and down Woodland Terrace area and I know where they all go and I know where they empty. So that's the kind of information you and Mark are looking for, is which ones are the hot spots. I know where the last catch basin is that dumps in off of Woodland Terrace, and probably someone else around here knows where Ordoney Road is or Route
Right.
87
We
is
have
and all
Ordoney
that kind of
Road
thing.
and we have Lake Road. Yeah.
So I'd be happy to check out Woodland Terrace and let you know which is the ones which are the ones you're most concerned about.
That'd be helpful.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So, the dam emergency plan, any updates there? Okay. Permit review, do we have any permits to look at?
There have been no permits submitted this month,
Wow.
no permit applications, yeah.
But
Wow.
Watershed just approved Walsh's and Bommert's.
Right, that was done by us last month,
Right, Monday night, they just approved it, so.
right? But since then, there have been no submissions in the last month. I did talk unofficially to Jim Blair, who said he may have one or two others coming in. I expressed to him that he should do that as soon as possible, but I have not heard from him on those.
I have one coming in.
Okay, well, submit it, please, as soon
I
as
will.
possible.
Yeah, I
Bring
told
it on
Mark
by.
I'd do it tomorrow.
Okay.
I just
There
found
is
out
a-
about it.
There is a limited window, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
What did inland wetlands have to review with respect to the Walshes? What are they doing that required inland wetlands? Mary,
I don't have the details in my head, Henry, tonight. I can tell you it was a learning experience because this is the first 2 field visits I've been on since I've been put on wetlands. And it's not as simple as to say, if you get to the wall, it's wetlands, and the wall and beyond is LMAC. Because of infiltrators and overall drainage and how it was fascinating to just sit there and listen and learn. And all I thought was, this isn't as simple as, wetlands can control to this and LMAX should be able to control that.
What we end up doing is recommending the construction of the wall,
Yeah,
recommending approval, but what happens is from the wall inland,
back,
there's a lot of excavation that happens. There's pea stone that's
Exactly.
put down, there's Marafi paper that's put down, filter fabric, whatever.
in
and that really
addition
is-
to,
That
if you
really
want
is
a
the purview
patio,
of inland wetlands if we're saying that the wall is the point of demarcation. So anything inland of that would be inland wetlands. That's
Yeah.
why they weigh in on those issues.
yeah, it was really fascinating. And if you want a new patio, which Bomberts did, and add this, that, and everything else, it's just not a simple proposition, which is what I learned. So I don't know the sense of this committee if you want to have some sort of demarcation. I don't believe I've learned enough to be able to weigh in one way or the other yet.
I think the point is that if we do walls only, that has to do with cuts in walls, steps in walls, docks that are attached to walls, those types of things. That seems to be, to me, to be the simple point of demarcation. Anything inland of the wall, which would be excavation required for the wall installation,
Mhm.
pea stone, filter fabric that goes behind the wall, that could be inland wetlands. And in a sense, that's a good checks and balances. There's another set of eyes looking at the whole thing, which is good. So it's for me, it's an easy point of demarcation. The wall towards the lake is us. The wall back towards inland is inland wetlands.
Well, somewhere during the course of this year, Mary and Bob, we need to try to.
Henry, we
Work.
can't hear you.
Can't hear you, Henry.
Somewhere during the course of this year, as you learn more about wetlands and Bob, I like what you're saying, but it may need to be tweaked. But the goal here is to be able to tell somebody who wants to do something where they have to go and why. Because right now our regulations just say, this is what you have to do if you want to build the wall, but there may be other permits from the building department you need, and it doesn't tell them what to do. And what we really want to do is kind of have at least some written guidance to help make sure that people do it right. So we can say, from what you're saying, Bob, from the wall out, you come see us. But undoubtedly, you're going to have filter paper, excavation, soil barriers, and you may want to have drainage through the wall too, from your foundation drain or whatever. All of that is
right.
All of that is inland wetlands, and so you probably do need to speak to both. But that's just to have a couple of short paragraphs so that people can understand.
There is something in the application that does say that people may have to go to either inland wetlands or planning and zoning. So they're already made aware of the fact that they have to do that. They may have to do that.
We do that, but we don't tell them why. And that's why
it's not our, we're only doing guidelines. Remember, Henry, we're only guidelines. Inland wetlands is a legal entity. We have no legal standing to tell people what to do.
We're not telling them. We're trying to help people get it right so the lake is preserved.
Oh, okay. So we're not going to tell them, but we're going to tell them? Come on, Henry.
No, we're going to tell, well, you can tell them, the town can give them advice. It can be the selectmen that give them the advice, but they can get advice so that they do it right.
It's usually people that are qualified that give them advice. One of those is the zoning enforcement officer. The other one's the inland wetlands officer. Those people are licensed to give advice. We are not licensed to give any advice except for the size of a dock, the number of moorings, and the wall. That's it.
And Bob,
I think we're reaching beyond our capabilities.
Yeah, I think to your point, Bob, if we're already saying LMAC does this, and then you may need wetlands and/or zoning, I can tell you one of the applications has to go back to zoning. So I was like, oh my God, this isn't even done yet. It's
And
only
I wouldn't have known that, and I'm a member of planning and
yeah,
zoning.
and I was just standing there going, whoa, I did not realize how much you had to go through and how many applications. So, and the other asset that we have is Steve Harrington is also on wetlands, and unfortunately he couldn't make the meeting, as we know, but I think he'll be able to provide some insight too.
Okay.
The problem arises when people mix and match their applications. Baumert, for example, wanted a new seawall. That's fine. Then he added on to that a patio. That's not our purview. That becomes a planning and zoning issue and an inland wetlands issue. So if they're mixing and matching their applications, where do we start and where do we stop?
Maybe we need one overall application and then it says LMAC IW and zoning and planning or something. I don't
Who's gonna determine where they go?
know. Probably Valenti or Connie. Zoning.
Or
and planning.
both, or both.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why in our application, it says you may need to seek other approvals.
Mm.
In bold print on our application. So we are addressing the issue.
Got it.
Would the only other two approvals be from either and or either zoning and or inland wetlands? Would those
No,
be the?
if you don't like the zoning regulations, you can go to Zoning Board of Appeals.
And you have to be appeals.
It's the third entity.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I think what's just coming up here, it sounds like to me that they're, instead of just other approvals, maybe there's just is there a way to expand on that?
A map.
Just
or-
say, or just, well, just not, no, just to say you may need other approvals from, either zoning or inland wetlands or
I-
other town
Or Zoning Board of Appeals.
or zoning board of appeals.
There you go.
May is too light because it really needs to be turned to must. I think we should make as, if we don't help give them guidance, we should make as part of our requirement that they give us a sign off from.
So if somebody wants a new dock, Henry, that means Zoning Board of Appeals, Inland Wetlands, and ZBA have to sign off on that. What we're trying to do is streamline the process, not go through that kind of process.
But I don't want to fight with you tonight.
Yeah, but
There's a solution
the
here.
problem is we're trying to streamline this for people. It could take a whole summer for somebody to get approval
Yeah.
to put a dock in. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to streamline this.
The easier we make it, the more compliance we'll have.
I hear you.
Well,
And that
Right.
would be the ultimate goal here.
fair enough.
So as an advisory board, are we allowed to do that or are we seeking to do that? Help me.
As an advisory board, we're only recommending to the Board of Selectmen approval for the things that are in the guidelines that we have.
Okay.
Again, they're only guidelines. And the board and the Board of Selectmen can either accept those the way we've recommended or accept them with modifications. In the history that I've been involved in, they've only made one change to whatever we submitted. And that was for Edith Prague's
Oh, yes.
wall, and the opening in her wall, instead of being the required dimension, they increased it by 1 foot.
Might be.
Right. That's the only time they've gone against what we've recommended.
Okay.
Favors.
All right.
No politics.
Moving on.
No politics.
Budget review. Okay. I think we're Mark, are we all set with budget?
I think so. You still have enough. We're not in any danger of going over yet.
Okay. And I guess with that, with the invoice from Dr. Cortman, we're still okay.
Correct.
Oh,
Okay.
God, yes.
So the next item is Phragmites. We got a report on that.
Phragmites was sprayed for, hand sprayed today. The give or take 20 by 20, 25 foot patch in the Lily Pad Cove area by Solitude. He believes that within 2 weeks, it'll all be dead. He said it was so
Really?
condensed.
2
Yep.
weeks?
He thinks, he said, come back in 2 weeks and I'm pretty sure this will all be gone. I said, okay, let's see.
But in the newspaper article, I'm not the Coventry town administrator. Just saying. If anybody
Yes, I
read the
noticed
Chronicle.
that, Mark.
Well, oh, you were?
I was
I was going to ask you about that.
repeatedly,
Why-
I took a job with Coventry, I guess.
Okay.
I thought you were moonlighting.
No,
Wait, yeah,
let the
wait.
rumors be dismissed.
What do you hire Beth and then you leave? I mean,
Yeah,
come
I guess
on.
I got hired by Coventry in the meantime.
Oh, my goodness.
Those
right.
articles, they made They
Didn't
made it
make
sound
it sound
pretty
like-
bad.
Like we were all gonna die. I kept saying,
Yeah.
no, this is minor. We're just being proactive. And then, they're selling newspapers.
Yeah, they definitely made it sound.
If a pet
Horrible.
drinks this water, they'll be dead. And like, oh,
Wait,
please.
there was an article in the Chronicle about this?
Yeah, today.
Front page.
Oh, God
Front
bless
page.
America. Stop it.
Yeah.
Columbia Lake, evil.
Look out for allergy.
Look
Be on the
out
lookout for allergy
algae,
at Columbia Lake.
deathly
Yeah.
cyanobacteria.
That
And
may,
then another big
maybe
headline,
it'll keep all
lake to
the
be treated
residents-
for invasive plants.
It'll keep all the non-residents away from the lake.
Right.
I'm all for it. Let them,
Good.
You're right.
let
And
them.
the follow-up article is on the Phragmites. Like, oh my God.
Now I got to look at this. Oh my
Yeah.
God, this is ridiculous.
Let them spew. Let them spew.
And actually, Lisa, who did the article, she normally
There you go.
doesn't do that. She got a little carried away.
Be on the lookout.
It
Oh,
took carried away.
stop
Check it out. Look at that.
Yeah.
The big old photo on the front page.
And then the other one is, hold on. Yeah, here's the other one.
Yeah,
Ah,
Mark.
crazy.
Can you have?
1/600 foot along shoreline.
Who's
I think
saying
that's
something?
fake news.
Yeah.
Henry.
Yeah,
what were you
Henry,
saying?
can you have Jennifer scan us a copy and email it to us?
Yes, unfortunately, I've been on my own all week while Jennifer is lounging in Cape Cod. But I will attempt to do that for you, Henry.
Well, it can wait. It can wait.
Okay.
Thank
It'd
you.
be easier for you to photocopy than throw it in your mailbox.
Mapping update from Carl. Carl?
Yeah, I'm not sure how I ended up on that. I have
I know, Carl.
nothing to do with mapping.
I
Oh.
can give you the update. And
Oh,
Mark, you
okay.
may know this. Hydro, I believe it was Hydro,
Yes.
had a beautiful, huge boat, twice the size of our Marine Patrol boat, with this unbelievable computer, and they were wandering around and around the lake. So I believed it was Hydro was mapping in the mapping.
It was. We let them
approved.
into the lake.
Okay. So
And
Mark,
they-
go ahead.
They mapped the bottom, and now we'll wait for the results from Anchor and then get it to Cortman and see what we do with it.
Cool.
Now, will that be like a file that they could email us so we could look at what the bottom of the,
Without having to pay twice.
without having to pay twice?
Let's get a
I'll work on
report.
that.
Uh,
All right.
Is that gonna end up in like a topo map of the lake?
I hope so. I hope it'll be I know they're focusing on the areas over 18 feet deep. Instead of doing the whole lake, they're doing the deepest parts of the lake because that's what we're interested in extracting that water out.
Mhm.
So we'll talk to Bob or Anchor Engineering and see what we get. Because their mapping will determine the design of the siphon
mhm,
to get the water out.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you know offhand who the contact at Anchor is?
Yes, Matt Brown.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And the last item I have here is we have the annual report coming up. It's due in a few weeks. I would greatly appreciate it, if each of you could just email me a couple of bullets, anything that has, events, anything significant, anything that you've seen around the lake, anything that's happened. I would greatly appreciate it. It could be simple, just to help me put together content for the annual report. If you could do that, say by Monday, that would be, greatly appreciated. So
Mike.
anything from, just email me.
Give us a for instance. Like,
We're working on the siphon,
Okay.
of the, anything that is of significance that you've, that's been, you know, important to you, or an experience that you've had, or something that you've seen, you know, that we've had blooms, algae blooms on this day and this day and this day, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And anything,
Oh, okay.
you know, anything that has been of any significance that I would just put in the annual report and it's something that you'd like to see memorialized in the annual report. Think of your legacy.
You do not get points for length of the annual report, just for
Yeah,
interest.
Mike.
value.
Yes.
Mike, you
But you
had me until legacy. I was going to even volunteer. Then I said no.
I knew I was going to overdo it. I just blew myself up.
All right, I'll send you the Phragmites stuff, the algae stuff, the ecosystem stuff.
Yeah, anything, you know,
There you go.
you know, or just a quick summary of, you know, how, because I've got 2 pages to put this thing together, and, you know, almost half of that is just sort of general boilerplate. So just any quick summary. You get lots of points for summaries, huge points for summaries.
We need to mention Carl Fenn in the annual report.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. That's
Good point.
exactly stuff like that. Yep.
And Mike, just as a reminder, there's usually a list at the end of the article that lists all the members. So you'll have to add a few and take Carl off of that.
Yep. Exactly. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Great.
One
Any
thing,
other
Mike,
item?
on next Thursday is the drawdown. So I talked to Beth, and we're gonna go over there after work and open the dam. I got to do it in the afternoon, about 3:30, I believe, next Thursday. I plan on opening it to 14 inches.
Oh, that's good information. Thank you.
And the thing is, we're already down a foot, so we're 3 or 4 days ahead already.
Wow.
And so pretty much a foot and a half down is when it's real hard to get a boat out after that. So it's going to be pretty quick after Thursday.
Wow. We should probably.
And then Dave, you're scheduled to take it down to what, 6 feet? And then
Minus
back up
6
to
feet.
5?
Yeah. And then let
6
it
feet,
rise back
6
up
feet
to
for a
5
period of a
after
couple of
5.
weeks, and then back up to 5, right?
Yeah. The way it
Dave?
looks with the rain, we're not getting much rain, so I don't even know if it'll come up quickly.
It's gonna rain 4 days next week, so.
Yeah.
So Dave, people are already asking me, what's the latest I can pull a boat out? What is LMAC's recommendation to get your boats out by?
Last
Tomorrow.
week. Yeah.
Probably Thursday.
Yeah.
Well, I would have to say,
Next
you know, for sure
Wednesday,
by
Thursday.
Saturday. By Saturday's the got to be out. You're gonna have a hard time. It's easier to pull a boat out than launch it with low water, because you can winch it up on your trailer. But you're pushing it at a foot and a half at the boat ramp.
Wow.
Okay,
I'll get
Tell-
a CLA quick email out.
that'd be helpful. Thank you, Mayor.
Unless you want to wait till the weekend.
This weekend, Dave.
Yeah, you could do
Unless
it
you want
this
to wait
weekend.
to open it on Sunday. But I don't-
No, you gotta
No,
open it for
Dave.
people to do the work. It's
All right.
important to get not much time to get work done before it freezes. I
Yeah.
couldn't get any of my work done last year on November 1, and I'm using the second year of my permit to get my work done. So I want it down.
Dave, are you still skiing?
Oh yeah.
They were out
Oh, yeah.
today.
See,
My
that's
my
why.
wife is.
Good
Yeah.
driving the boat.
Yeah, you took in the slalom course. So Mark, if you're talking to people about pulling their boats and giving them any kind of guidance, tell them to watch their outdrive or prop when they're pulling the boat, because if you're winching up your boat on your trailer, you could have that be dragging on the ground, and it could do great damage to and break the seal.
Okay,
Huh.
great.
Say that again, Henry. Just watch the outdriver prop. Well, don't you lift it up? Yeah.
Well,
okay.
if you're cranking it up on the trailer because you can't get the trailer back far enough to float underneath it, the bow usually rides up high
Ah,
and then levels off. And when the bow is rising up high, you're putting your drive into the mud or the
Got it.
rocks, as the case
Okay.
may be.
got it.
There are also, because the water's low, there are also two rocks that can hit your lower unit.
Right.
One rock is between the island and Carmen Vance's house. The other rock is between the island and going the other way. The white rock. Henry, I'm sure you know all about these
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got the
Uh,
Carmen Vance one this year.
Yeah,
The,
I got it last year.
Ugh.
the other thing that people should know is that you probably at this point might have trouble coming up alongside the cement quay, dock at the beach, the one where there's a seawall and then the grass is in back of it, because
yeah.
the depth of the water there is not very deep, and there's
Oh, boy.
there are some cobbles that are there, and if you're not way out at the very end, you're probably going to have trouble, and you may even have trouble there depending on your boat.
Okay,
So as you approach the beach, you want to have you want to, raise your prop.
yep. Okay,
Okay.
got it. I'll get a quick note out. Little ripples. Thank
All
you.
kayakers are fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
I would suggest to tell people we're opening it on Thursday and they probably need to be out by Friday. Because if they
Okay.
wait for Friday or Saturday or Sunday, that's gonna be close.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we're already a foot down. Wow.
Yeah,
The safe bet is to do it this weekend.
Yep.
Right, right, yes.
Okie dokie.
Got it.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
There we go.
I
You
second.
got it. You got
We
it.
got a second, got Mary, Jim. All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? All right, thank you. Have a
Nice
good
to
night.
see
Have a
y'all.
good night,
Thanks,
everyone.
See you,
everybody. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mark. Thanks, Beth. Welcome.